That's a honor.
Thank you for joining us tonight. You just came back from the East. You've been on both sides. You posted on Facebook a terrible picture, yes, with a smirch, right, that landed just right somewhere close to your car. Could you tell us more about this incident? How did it happen? Where did it happen? What were you thinking?
Something important in this incident is that this smerge did not explode. So that's why I'm here to talk to you about it. And it happened a bit south of Gorlovka, between Enakievo and Gorlovka. And I don't have much to say about it. We were driving our car in the direction of the north. We wanted to try to make it to Artyomovsk, so from the Ukrainian side, directly from Gorlovka. So that was a dangerous road. We knew it was a dangerous road. And yeah, this smerch just fell 200 meters from the car and did not explode. I can only suppose it was launched from the Ukrainian side. I don't have any proof here, of course, but it came from the Ukrainian side, and we were on the DNR side. So I suppose it came from the Ukrainian side.
And how did you feel in that moment? I mean, did you feel, lucky?
No, you just don't realize what just happened. Actually, all along this road, you can hear big explosions. So when you hear big explosions and quite close, you are a bit scared. But when you just see this enormous thing, you just don't think anything.
But it was on the road, right? It was not in the town or somewhere in the residential area. It was somewhere on the road,
It was on the road, but actually the very fact that something like this and big like this can fall on a totally desert road makes you think that it can fall anywhere. And
of course.
Actually, the question of the roads is important. That's something crazy and that you can't understand when you are there. Is the fact that the separatists and the Ukrainian army could not agree on a single road that would be safe for civilians. So there is no safe road. There are roads that are safer than others, but there is no one road which is 100% secure.
Did you witness any attempts to agree upon a safe road?
No. I couldn't see such things.
How does life look like from the both sides? You've been there, you've been in Donetsk, you've been there on the territories controlled by Ukraine. How does life look like to you? What were the last impressions?
You feel many impressions there. Life looks sad, as you could just see in the report, especially for civilians who are really trapped in this situation. And what about feelings? I don't know. There was one strong feeling I felt there was absurdity. You can feel absurdity in this region from the very beginning, from spring on. The absurdity of seeing a whole region fall into this kind of chaos following, if you remember what happened at the very beginning, a few hundred people took this region, a few hundred people took with them a whole region, because I can say that I think that the majority of the region now is in favor of DNR. So you could feel this absurdity from the very beginning. You could feel the absurdity of seeing the people buying all the Russian TV propaganda, buying all the Kremlin propaganda. And now you can feel this absurdity even more in the way that how this war looks like now. Now this war looks like, we speak about a major offensive by the rebels. There is one, and actually I think it's not more than that because the Ukrainian army resists quite well, but the results of this offensive are very, very minimal. They took maybe a few checkpoints, a few villages, and that's it. For the hundreds and hundreds of deaths, of shellings that take place. So yeah, that's the point where I wanted to come. This war looks like an exchange of shellings. That's right, quite frightening. That's what is quite absurd, and that's why the civilians are trapped here.
But to come back to a point that you made, talking about how the majority of people living in these regions, you say, support the DNR and LNR, which I think, for our Ukrainian listeners, that's quite a controversial statement, because Ukraine's line is that this is, a small minority supported by Russia that have been pushed their will on this area. What gave you that impression? Were these people that you met, or what?
Yeah, of course, people I met, and I know that there is a weak point there, that the people I met are the people who didn't leave. I guess that most of the people who left don't think this way. And there is another point, of course, which is fear, that you can feel fear there. So I know that I'm a journalist and that not all the people will talk honestly to me. But to answer your question, I can take one example. in those places, in those cities that were taken and taken back by both sides, there are not so many of them. You can take Ilovaisk, you can take Lutugino. So what I mean is that those places were shelled by both sides. That's a point no one can contradict. And people there seem to remember only of the Ukrainian shellings. They kind of forgot that the separatists, to take back these cities, also shelled.
Why do you think so? Why does it happen?
I don't know, but my conclusion to this is that the divorce with the population that stayed in those regions is important, that the divorce between those populations and Kiev is consumed. You
were saying about absurdity. Of course, any war is a huge absurd, but in your opinion, what is this? What is the sense of fighting there from the side of DNR? Are they doing some kind of offensive moving forward, or what is the sense there?
You should ask them. I know it's hard for Ukrainian journalists to work there. If you ask them, you hear those 10 times heard speeches about fighting the junta, defending their homeland, which sounds like absurdity again, but that they believe in.
But they would like to move forward, or?
Yeah. I think there is a mix of ideology there. I don't know if you can call it that way, that all the land, all the Donbass should belong to the separatists. A lot of them believed in that. And I guess that they are war people, they are war commanders. They don't know how to hold the region, they don't know how to rule it. So making war is something they can do.
But to turn to a question to our viewers, because we asked them, because it's a unique opportunity to get experience from someone who's been there. We had one Twitter user named Jacko Quintanilla, if I'm not mispronouncing it, and his question is, what's the impact of the lack of access of Ukrainian reporters inside Donbass, and could it change? And the reason that's interesting is most of the coverage of Donbass from the separatist areas, it's foreign correspondence.
True.
It's from the West, there's some Russian correspondence there, which, I mean, is interesting, certainly a lot of work being done, but what is the impact of that? How does that affect the coverage? And I mean, have you known Ukrainian journalists who work there? We've had a few that have been there, but it seems harder.
There are very few of them. I would quote, I don't know, Katia Sergatskova. The impact, it's hard to say. No, actually, you can feel that when you come back to Kiev. And so I will say something that I would not, if I was talking to a French audience, I would not insist on that, but I think it's important for the Ukrainian audience because you can hear some myth also from this side. And actually what we just discussed, the fact that a major part of the population is supporting the separatists, that's something that maybe if more Ukrainian journalists were working on this side, they could feel, they could report on that. That's important. And in the same way, in the same spirit, the fact that, of course, this war was launched almost 100% by Russia. This is something I won't deny, of course, but there is a strong part of this war, which is a civil war. The majority of the fighters, of the DNR fighters you meet, those you can meet, because of course you can't meet those who are hiding or staying in their bases, but the majority of the fighters you meet there are locals. And I'm very sure of that, because the Russian volunteers, they don't hide, they are Russians. So I really insist on that. The majority of the fighters you meet are local people.
You mean they don't fight? They don't hide? Russian soldiers don't hide, and they are openly about their involvement in the conflict?
The Russian volunteers don't hide.
The Russian volunteers.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should make the difference between a Russian volunteer and a Russian soldier. But I think the Russian soldier, they just don't show up.
Yes, saying openly that...
Yeah, I can tell you one small story. The question of Russian soldiers is, of course, very hard to discuss. I was with a rebel commander I know for a long time, from Slavyansk, and they just took Krasny Partizan, and one of these guys didn't me and went to the commander and said, who are these Russian razvedchiki?
Intelligence.
Yeah, kind of intelligence. Not intelligence, because his question was, who are those Russian people shooting everywhere? So he didn't notice me. That was a kind of a gaffe. So, of course, there are some. And for me, the question of the proofs of the presence of Russian army is a kind of a trap by the Kremlin, because a tank in itself is a proof. Then, who is driving the tank? That's important to define what this war is. If it's 100% an aggression war made by a country on the territory of another country. But the very fact of sending the tank says it all.
All right. Well, I think we'll end on that. But thank you very much for your experience on the front lines.
Thank you very much.
Happy to have those people.